Licensing is the art of turning ideas into journeys. A song finds its passport through a license, a design earns its passage into markets, a formula crosses borders under carefully chosen terms. Each agreement is both promise and puzzle. Royalties measure trust. Exclusivity carves territory. Obligations balance ambition with restraint. Done well, a license amplifies creation beyond its origin. Done poorly, it shackles the very idea it was meant to set free. Today, we unfold the elegance and the intrigue of licensing, the quiet architecture behind empires of innovation.
You are listening to Intangiblia, the podcast of intangible law, plain talk about intellectual property. Please welcome your host, Leticia Caminero.
Welcome back to Intangiblia. I'm Leticia Caminero. Today's episode is inspired by my new workbook, Protection for the Invented Mind. If you like what you hear, you'll find more practical exercises, tools, and AI strategies inside the book, available on Amazon.
And I'm Artemisa, your AI co-host, here to keep things bold and maybe a little mischievous.
Today, we're talking about licensing. The word might sound dry.
But trust me, it's anything but. Licensing is how sneakers end up on catwalks, how songs get into blockbusters, and how one contract can make or break a fortune.
We'll look at what makes a good license, how to negotiate like a pro, and when it's time to renegotiate or just cut your losses.
Plus the red flags, the royalty traps, and the sneaky clauses that could keep you up at night.
And before we dive in, a reminder, Artemisa is an AI, and my voice here has even been cloned with AI tools.
So no, Leticia is not your lawyer. If you're about to sign a deal, call your actual counsel. Don't show up in court saying, but Artemisa said.
Please don't. This is not legal advice. It's just your front row seat to the wall of licensing. Before we go any further, let's clear the air. What exactly is a license? Too often, people throw the word around without knowing what it really means.
And no, it's not just paperwork lawyers invent to keep busy.
A license is permission. It lets someone use intellectual property like music, software, or a trademark without giving up ownership. The creator keeps the rights, but allows others to use them under strict conditions.
So think of it less like selling your house and more like renting out a room. You're still the landlord, but the tenant gets to live there until the lease runs out or they break the rules.
Exactly. That's the big difference from an assignment, which actually transfers ownership. A license is access, not a handover.
And the fine print, that's where all the fun and trouble happens.
So now that we know what a license is, let's ask the real question. What can you actually license? The answer is almost any kind of intellectual property, patents, trademarks, copyrights, designs, even trade secrets, if you handle them carefully.
If it has value and the law protects it, chances are someone somewhere is willing to license it. Songs, logos, software code, character rights, formulas, you name it.
Patents are classic. You invent a new technology, and instead of manufacturing everything yourself, you license it out to companies that already have the distribution networks.
Which is how small inventors sometimes end up collecting royalties from global giants without running a single factory.
Trademarks are also heavily licensed. Think of fashion brands, sports teams, or even your favorite cartoon character appearing on cereal boxes. That's trademark licensing in action.
And it's a gold mine when done right. Just ask Disney how many pajamas Mickey Mouse has sold.
Copyright licensing drives music, film, publishing, and now streaming. And then there are the less obvious ones like trade secrets or databases. As long as you protect them properly, you can license know-how just like you license patents.
Still, the short version, if it can be protected, it can probably be licensed. The trick is making sure you don't give away more than you should.
So when are you actually ready to license? Let's break it down step by step.
Yes, because rushing in half prepared is the fastest way to sign a deal you'll regret.
Step 1, is ownership. You need to show clearly that you own what you're offering. That means registrations or filings, if they exist, and assignments from anyone who worked on the invention or creative work. No missing signatures, no half-finished paperwork.
And no surprises. If you don't clean up ownership issues before negotiations, your future licensee will find them and use them to drive your price down.
Step 2 is clarity of scope. You need to map exactly what you're licensing. For patents, that means tying features of your product or technology back to specific patent claims. If claim 1 covers a chemical formula, show how your product uses it. If claim 2 covers a method, demonstrate where it fits. Don't just wave around a patent number, prove the connection.
Otherwise, you're just flexing paper, and licenses want substance, not citations.
For copyright, be precise about what version of a song, code, or text is being licensed. If it's software, are we talking about version 1 or version 3.5 that matters?
Nothing kills trust like a licensee thinking they bought the rights to Beyoncé and finding out they got the demo tape.
Step 3 is protection during talks. Before you reveal anything sensitive, sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. It's a contract that says the potential licensee can use, share, or leak the confidential information you disclose. NDAs often also include a line saying, this doesn't oblige either side to sign a license, but it allows us to start negotiations safely.
In other words, you get to show off your crown jewels without worrying someone will run off with them before you agree on price.
Step 4 is packaging. A license is easier to negotiate if you prepare the asset for someone else to step into. That means a clean data room, technical notes, demos, brand guidelines, quality standards, maybe even ethics about integration.
Think of it as staging the apartment before you rent it. No one's signing if the place looks like a storage closet.
Worth fighting for? You need to propose a royalty model that makes sense. Don't show up with vague guesses. Have a royalty base that can be measured, like per unit sold or percentage of net sales. If you want a deeper dive on valuation methods and how to calculate royalties, go back to episode 15, season 5, Worth Fighting For, IP lawsuits and the art of valuation. We explain the models in detail there.
Because if you don't know your number, they'll give you theirs, and trust me, it won't be generous.
And finally, step 6, governance. Decide the rules before you negotiate. Will the license be exclusive or non-exclusive? Will sub-licensing be allowed and under what conditions? What reporting and audit rights do you need? How will disputes be handled? And what happens when the license ends?
If you don't pre-plan the exit, you'll end up trapped in your own contract. And trust me, no one wants a forever clause they didn't see coming.
So you're ready to license when you can prove ownership, define scope, protect your secrets, package your asset, set a clear value, and establish the rules of the road.
Do that, and you'll walk into negotiations with confidence, skip it, and you're just another cautionary tale.
So let's dig into the practical part. How do you actually find licensees, the person who is receiving your license? This is where strategy meets legwork.
Exactly. It's not about waiting for someone to knock on your door. It's about knowing where to look and why.
First, look at companies in the same CPC patent classes. CPC is the Cooperative Patent Classification System. If your patent is in a class about battery chemistry, any company filing in that same class is already working in that field. They're potential licenses. It's like browsing in the same aisle of a supermarket. You know you're all interested in the same thing.
And the beauty is you don't even need insider info. Patent databases are public. If you see the same company popping up in your CPC neighborhood, that's your cue.
Second, consider business models like ARM. They don't manufacture chips themselves. They design CPU architectures and license those designs to semiconductor companies like Qualcomm or Samsung. That shows how a whole industry can be built on licensing instead of selling physical goods.
A reminder that licensing isn't a side hustle. It can be the business.
Third, standards and certification programs. Think about Wi-Fi or USB logos on devices. Those logos mean the company is part of a licensing program. If your technology fits into an industry standard or could become part of one, licenses will often come to you. The same goes for green certifications, sustainability labels, or organic food standards. If there's a badge companies want on their products, licensing is how they get it.
Standards aren't just paperwork, they're magnets. People pay to wear the badge.
Fourth, brand and character licensing. Big entertainment companies don't make all the lunchboxes, pajamas, or cereal tie-ins themselves. They license their characters to manufacturers who specialize in each product. If you're a brand owner, your licensees are often those factories and product specialists, the people who know how to make and distribute in their category.
Find the folks who already live in that supply chain. They're the ones who can take your character or logo and put it on 10,000 backpacks tomorrow.
FS, university tech transfer offices. They're not just for inventors looking to license out. If you're searching for licensees, you can learn from how these offices present their portfolios. They make assets visible, easy to browse, and attractive for potential partners. It's a model to copy when you're trying to showcase your own IP.
And some universities even list out who's already licensing their stuff. That's basically a map of active licensees by sector.
6, if your IP is software, look at developer ecosystems, app stores, Salesforce, App Exchange, Shopify apps, or even open source communities. Licenses here are companies that want a feature fast without building it from scratch.
And don't forget SaaS marketplaces. If you have code or an API, resellers and integrators can become licensees too.
7th, for data or content licensing, target aggregators and brokers. In media, music libraries license songs for ads or films. In data, brokers collect and resell data sets for marketing, finance, or healthcare. If you have curated data or specialized content, your licenses may be these middle players who bundle your IP into packages for end users.
They're the wholesalers. You give them the goods, they slice and dice, and you get royalties from every bundle sold.
8th, trade shows. These are gold mines for finding licensees. For consumer products, there's Licensing Expo in Las Vegas. For fashion and textiles, Premier Vision in Paris. For books and publishing, the Frankfurt Book Fair. For electronics, CES in Las Vegas or Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. For gaming, GDC in San Francisco or Gamescom in Cologne. For toys, the Spielrennen in Nuremberg. Even niche shows like Bio International for biotech or Vinexpo for wine and spirits can be key. The trick is don't just show up. Book meetings at least 2 weeks ahead and bring a one-pager plus a demo.
Walk the floor prepared. The random handshake in the aisle is great, but the real deals happen in those pre-booked coffee slots.
9th, consider tariffs and trade rules if you're going international. Let's say you license your product to a manufacturer overseas. If tariffs make imports more expensive, your licensee's margins shrink, and so does your royalty base. Before signing, study the tariff schedules and trade agreements that affect your field. Otherwise, you could end up with a license that looks profitable on paper but loses value in practice.
Exactly. If customs slaps 20% on your licensed product, don't be surprised when your global expansion turns into global disappointment.
So finding licensees is about mapping who needs your IP, showing up where they are, and understanding the market realities, tariffs included, before you sign.
Because the right licensee isn't just someone who can pay, it's someone who will pay sustainably in their market.
Intangiblia, the podcast of intangible law, plain talk about intellectual property.
When people talk about negotiation frameworks, it can sound abstract. Let's slow it down and translate these into tools you can actually use when licensing.
Good, because nothing's worse than buzzwords without instructions.
Let's start with interest-based negotiation from the Harvard model. The idea is to separate positions from interests. A position is what someone says they want. I need 10% royalties. An interest is the reason behind it. Maybe they want security, recognition, or predictability.
Think of it like ordering at a restaurant. The position is, I want pasta. The interest is, I'm starving, but I need something quick. If the pasta takes an hour, the waiter can suggest a faster dish that still solves the problem.
In licensing, that might mean exploring alternative structures. If a licensee says we can't afford 10%, maybe the real interest is cash flow. You could propose 5% plus a lump sum upfront or lower royalties with guaranteed minimums.
That's how you move from deadlock to options that actually work.
Next, PATNA, your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. This is your plan B if talks collapse. You need to know it before walking into the room. Maybe your BATNA is signing with another licensee in a smaller territory, keeping the technology for in-house use, or even waiting 6 months for better market conditions.
And here's the brutal truth. The side with the stronger BATNA has more power. If you don't know yours, you'll accept terms out of fear of losing the deal.
Exactly. In practical terms, you should write it down. What's the best alternative? What's the realistic outcome? And what's your absolute walkaway point? Having it in black and white keeps you from making emotional concessions.
Because hope is not a strategy. If your BATNA is better than their offer, stand up and walk.
Now, let's talk about mesos, multiple equivalent simultaneous offers. Instead of giving one proposal and waiting, you present 2 or 3 options at once. Each one works for you, but in different ways.
For example, option A is 8% royalties, worldwide, non-exclusive. Option B is 5% royalties, but with a big upfront payment and exclusivity in Europe. Option C is 6% royalties, plus performance milestones. You're fine with any of them.
This technique does 3 things. First, it shows flexibility. Second, it reveals what the licensee cares about most: royalty rate, territory, or upfront cash. Third, it anchors the conversation around choices that all favor you.
And it avoids the worst trap, endless back and forth over one number while everything else stays fuzzy.
Finally, let's borrow from Big Four advisors. They don't just argue, they model. One tool is a scenario table, a grid that shows how the deal performs under different outcomes. For example, low, medium, and high sales scenarios. What does your royalty look like in each case?
It's like stress testing the deal. If sales flop, do you still cover costs? If sales explode, do you regret capping your royalties too low?
Then there's sensitivity analysis. Pick 2 or 3 key variables like sales volume, tariff rates, or exchange rates, and see how small changes affect your revenue. If a 5% tariff wipes out half your royalty, you'll want to know before signing. Better to find out with Excel than with bankruptcy court.
And the deal canvas. This is a one-page map of the deal, the asset scope, royalty model, exclusivity, risks, and red lines. You bring it to meetings to keep focus. If a proposal doesn't fit the canvas, you know it's off track.
Think of it as your compass. Without it, you're just wandering through fine print.
So practical negotiation isn't about who talks louder. It's about uncovering interests, knowing your BATNA, offering mesos to test priorities, and running the numbers with scenario tables and canvases.
And remembering the golden rule, if you don't prepare, the other side already won.
Oh, the red flags. When we talk about red flags in licensing, it's not just clauses in the contract. It's also the behavior and demands of the licensee across the table. Let's walk through the ones that should make you stop and think twice.
And some of these flags are even red. They're neon with alerts blaring.
Licensees who overpromise.
First, the licensee who overpromises. They claim they can sell in every market, dominate distribution, and triple your royalties in a year. But when you check their track record, there is no evidence.
If it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. Overpromisers become underdeliverers.
Reluctance to share financials or capacity.
Second, reluctance to share basic financials, sales history, or capacity. A serious licensee should be able to show you proof, past performance, market reach, and resources to scale.
If they can't show numbers, they don't have numbers, and you don't want your royalties resting on ghosts.
Resistance to performance milestones.
Third, resistance to performance milestones. If a licensee refuses minimum sales targets or guaranteed royalties, that's a red flag. It signals they want rights without accountability.
Milestones aren't punishment, they're proof they plan to actually do something.
Aggressive push for exclusivity.
Fourth, licensees who demand broad exclusivity from the start. If they want entire territories or industries locked up without showing the ability to cover them, that's risky. Exclusivity should always be earned through performance.
Otherwise, you've just gifted them the keys to a market they might never open.
Avoiding audit or reporting obligations.
Fifth, refusal to accept audits or transparent reporting. If a licensee pushes back against standard reporting clauses, ask why. Licensors need visibility to calculate royalties correctly.
If someone hates the idea of being audited, maybe they're planning to underreport.
Poor reputation in the market.
Sixth, licensees with a poor reputation, whether it's litigation history, IP infringement cases, or complaints from partners, do a background check. A bad reputation usually comes with bad habits.
Licensing to a known pirate is like asking a wolf to guard your ship. Spoiler, the ship don't make it.
Unrealistic royalty negotiations.
Sevens, licenses who demand unrealistically low royalty rates or who refuse standard structures like upfront fees or minimum guarantees. It may mean they don't value the IP or lack resources to invest.
If they won't pay fairly at the start, they won't magically become generous later.
Weak distribution or market knowledge.
Eighth, licensees who lack real distribution networks or market knowledge. They may have ambition, but without reach, your IP will sit on a shelf.
Ambition without infrastructure is just wishful thinking.
Legal or regulatory red flags.
Nineteenth, licenses operating in countries with high tariffs, weak enforcement, or regulatory instability without a plan to manage those risks. If tariffs or customs duties make your products uncompetitive, your royalty stream dries up.
Understand the trade landscape before you sign. Otherwise, you're licensing into a black hole.
So the red flags aren't just in the contract, they're in who you choose as a partner. Overpromising, lack of transparency, refusal of milestones, aggressive exclusivity grabs, no reporting, bad reputation, unrealistic royalties, weak distribution, and poor regulatory awareness. These are warning signs.
Spot them early, and you'll save yourself from signing with the wrong partner. Miss them, and you'll be babysitting a disaster instead of collecting royalties.
Licenses aren't frozen in time. Markets change, costs shift, and sometimes partners just don't deliver. So the big question is, when do you renegotiate? When do you walk away? And when do you take them to court?
Exactly, because sticking with a bad license is like staying in a toxic relationship. You'll bleed money and sleep badly.
When to renegotiate?
You renegotiate when the ground under the deal has shifted. Say the licensee's sales are way below forecast, or tariffs and shipping costs doubled since you signed. Suddenly, the royalty model doesn't make sense anymore.
Or the market explodes in a new direction. Your software is now being bundled into smart cars, not just laptops. That's growth, but outside the old deal. Perfect moment to sit back down at the table.
And sometimes it's legal change. A new regulation could add compliance costs the license never accounted for. That's a trigger for a rewrite too.
When to stop?
But let's be clear, sometimes the problem isn't the world changing, it's the partner. If they keep missing payments, ignore quality standards, or push for more rights without delivering, that's when you walk.
Yes, and if enforcing the license costs you more than you're making, it's time to cut your losses. Ending a license isn't failure, it's protecting your IP.
Think of it as pruning. You cut a dead branch so the tree can grow.
And to sue.
Pyro. And suing is the last resort. You go there when a licensee won't pay, keeps using your IP outside the deal, or ignores cure notices. Sometimes it's trademark misuse that threatens the brand itself. That's serious enough to justify the fight.
But only if the math works. Lawsuits eat time, money, and reputation. If the harm is small, court might not be worth it. But if royalties are bleeding out or your brand is at stake, then you go in hard.
Putting it all together.
So the rule of thumb, renegotiate when the market changes, stop when the partner fails, sue when there's no other way to protect your rights.
And don't wait until it's a crisis. Set review points in your contracts, check performance, and know your thresholds before you need them.
The way you're not guessing, you're managing.
And remember, not every fight is worth it. Sometimes walking away gracefully is the smartest legal strategy of all.
Let's boil this down to some takeaways.
Bullet points without the bullets.
Number 1, a license isn't just about money, it's about fit. The wrong partner can sink your brand faster than low sales.
Number 2, red flags don't fade with time. If a licensee hides numbers, resists audits, or demands too much exclusivity, they'll keep doing it.
Number 3, contracts should breathe. Build in milestones, review dates, and triggers for renegotiation. That way, you adjust before the deal collapses.
Number 4, know your off-ramps. Walking away or suing isn't failure, it's control. The smartest licensors know when to fold.
And number 5, licensing done right is power. Think Lego and Star Wars, Nike and Jordan, Barbie and Warner Bros. These aren't side deals. They are empire builders.
So the takeaway, treat licenses like living systems. Protect them, prune them, and if you find the right match, let them grow wild.
So that's our journey through the highs and lows of licensing, from spotting red flags to celebrating partnerships that made history.
And remember, this isn't theory. These are the moves that decide whether your IP becomes a footnote or a phenomenon.
If you want to go deeper into protecting and growing your own ideas, I've just published a workbook called Protection for the Inventive Mind. It's packed with practical exercises, hands-on tools, and ways to leverage AI to sharpen your strategy.
Think of it as a training ground. You don't just read, you actually build your own protection map.
You can find Protection for the Inventive Mind on Amazon in print and Kindle.
Do yes, protect smart, license smarter, and keep building what's yours.
Thanks for listening to Intangibilia. I'm Leticia Caminero.
And I'm Artemisa, your AI co-pilot. Not your lawyer, not your accountant, but definitely your sassiest sidekick.
See you in the next one.
Thank you for listening to Intangibilia, the podcast of intangible law, plain talk about intellectual property. Did you like what we talked today? Please share with your network. Do you want to learn more about intellectual property? Subscribe now on your favorite podcast player. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Visit our website www.intangibilia.com. Copyright Leticia Caminero 2020. All rights reserved. This podcast is provided for information purposes only.